All right, Mr. Chairman, I want to read you a statement. All right, this statement says President Trump is most certainly not the victim here. His words and actions were reckless, and he shares responsibility for the disgrace that occurred on January 6th. Is that a statement you agree with?
Look, I think that the rhetoric and actions that we saw on January 6th, the actions that we saw from the protesters that attacked the Capitol are horrific and unjustified. There is no rationale that could excuse the actions of those people that went into the Capitol that caused the violence and the deaths and injuries that we've seen from that are truly horrific. But I think the fault lies with those people who attacked the Capitol.
Okay, because that statement blames the former president. It says that President Trump shares responsibility for the disgrace that occurred on January 6th. That statement made by your other Republican senator, Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, says that the former president's actions were reckless and he shares responsibility. So why not censure him?
Well, I think what we saw coming out of the vote on Saturday across the state of North Carolina, I talked to over hundreds of volunteers, of party leaders, of activists from every part of the state, and they're very disappointed with the vote that we saw from Senator Burr, particularly after he had said that the impeachment process in the Senate was unconstitutional.
What responsibility do you, as the Republican Party chair in North Carolina, think the former president bears for what happened on January 6th?
I think the responsibility lies with those people who broke the law, who attacked the Capitol, who attacked those police officers and caused the violence and mayhem, which is completely reprehensible and unjustifiable.
So you think Mitch McConnell is wrong? Because Mitch McConnell says there's no question, none. There's no question, none, that the president is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of that day. Why is Mitch McConnell wrong?
Look, I'm not going to say that Mitch McConnell's wrong. What I'm going to say is that, the actions that we saw by that mob are completely unjustifiable, reprehensible, and horrific.
Because it sounds to me, you are censuring Richard Burr, you say, for voting to convict because you say it's unconstitutional. But it sounds to me like you're punishing him or you're refusing to put any responsibility on the former president, correct?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that the Republicans across North Carolina, the party leaders that I talked to, were shocked and disappointed with Senator Burr's vote and wanted to put out a statement just saying that we disagree with it.
In Utah, which is a Republican state, I mean, it's as red as they come, they had two senators voting different ways. Mike Lee and Mitt Romney voted separate ways. The Utah Republican Party put out a statement that said, our senators have both been criticized for their vote. The differences between our own Utah Republicans showcase a diversity of thought, in contrast to the danger of a party fixated on unanimity of thought. So what do you think of what Utah did?
Look, I'm heartburned with what the Utah party did. What I can say is that I had conversations with over 100 leaders across North Carolina over the 3 days following Senator Burr's vote, and there was universal disapproval of the vote itself. Look, Richard Burr has been a leader in the North Carolina Republican Party for over 20 years. He will continue to be a leader in the North Carolina Republican Party. I don't think that this is a statement against Richard Burr as a senator. I think this is a statement that we disagree with that particular vote.
You censured him. I mean, that's quite a statement against Richard Burr.
It's a statement against that particular vote.
You know, we hear a lot from people in the Republican Party about cancel culture. You know, you are canceling Richard Burr for his vote, which he says was a vote of conscience.
Well, I think that the cancel culture where we see the president kicked off of all social media, former president kicked off of all social media, where we see people losing their jobs, where we see people who have been hit on social media or deplatformed, is entirely different from us as a state party saying that we disagree with one particular vote cast by a senator.
You're canceling him because of that vote.
We're not canceling anything. We're saying that we disagree with one particular vote.
In Utah, you know, I understand you saying that you're hearing from Republicans. Donald Trump won Utah by 20%. he won North Carolina by, which was, by the way, an impressive victory in North Carolina given the circumstances, but barely 1%. So, Utah can handle it. How come you guys can't handle diversity of opinion?
Well, I think that we're perfectly fine with diversity of opinion. I don't think that you should read anything into this resolution that was passed last night, other than the fact that across the board, the North Carolina Republicans were disappointed with Senator Burr's vote.
And has the North Carolina Republican Party made any statement condemning or putting responsibility on the former president for anything that happened on January 6th?
What we did is put out multiple statements saying that we were horrified by the actions on January 6th and that they were unjustified and unreasonable.